But I have to say, one of your books has maybe the best title that I have ever heard, and that is Never Go With Your Gut. What a perfect catchphrase.
Thank you.
You're also the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, which sounds like a bomb defusal squad. And I love the high stakes approach that you take when you're naming stuff. Something you could name movies, perhaps.
I'll be happy to name movies and initiatives and books.
It's the final episode of Out of Office for 2024, and we have a special treat in store. My guest today is a very notable name in the field of remote work and someone that I think you're going to learn a lot from. So please welcome Dr. Gleb Tsipursky.
Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate you inviting me. Excited to be on the show.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you here.
Disaster Avoidance Experts is to help people avoid decision disasters, because when you make bad decisions around the future of work, whether it's about Amazon asking its employees to return to the office 5 days a week and preventing disabled employees from having disability accommodations, or the Trump administration apparently asking federal employees to come back to the office 5 days a week in order to force them to leave, all of those are really bad decisions. That's what Disaster Avoidance Experts is about, helping people avoid decision disasters, like going with your gut and having bad outcomes.
It's a really brilliant angle, a brilliant way to approach it. Last year, Crossover awarded you a leadership award as the voice of reason. And you've been on my radar for a long time. The New York Times has coined you the office whisperer. You got that moniker for helping CEOs figure out what they had to do to convince people that going back to the office was actually what they wanted. And on the surface, that sounds like someone who would be a general for the other army. So I'm curious to let you elaborate on what is your personal perspective?
So the Office Whisperer, for those folks who want to check it out, it was a New York Times Magazine article featuring the Information Sciences Institute at the University of Southern California. They talked to Craig Knobloch, who is the executive director. He was making a decision about what to do around the future of work. And he was seeing that Amazon and Apple wanted to go back to the office 3 days a week. And so he was thinking, maybe we should do the same thing. And he actually announced it. And then he saw the presentation that I did, that you can actually make remote work effective, you can make hybrid work effective. And he thought that, hey, maybe we should reconsider this. So he had a conversation with me, and he radically changed his policies, where instead of having an approach of 3 days a week for everyone, he said each team should determine what works best for each team. They need to be trained on how to work together effectively in a hybrid setting or in a remote setting, because otherwise the manager who doesn't know how to do so will push the team to just come to the office. The more time, the better, because he or she knows how to manage them in that setting. And so that's what we instituted at the Information Sciences Institute, and that's what I do for all of my clients.
Our main topic today, of course, is all about training managers for hybrid and remote work teams. Can you give me a little bit of an overview of the kind of experience and background that you have?
Sure, happy to. I've been in the field of training for over 25 years now, specifically focusing on the future of work and decision-making around the future of work. I got a PhD in the history of behavioral science. I was a professor at Ohio State, and I was also moonlighting academic training for a variety of companies, ranging from Aflac to Xerox. Microsoft is one of my clients. I work with the largest company in the world, helping them make the best decisions around the future of work and avoiding cognitive biases, avoiding these dangerous judgment errors. As remote work became more and more popular, I started working on that too.
How often do you find yourselves, brought in to talk about something that's specific to remote and hybrid contexts, and yet actually ultimately sharing leadership principles that are universal?
So I'm right now working with a law firm around hybrid and remote work. And we did a survey. And you know what we saw? For the supervisor, setting expectations when working remotely and setting expectations when working in the office were about the same, and they were not very good for managing collaboration. That was not good when they were working remotely and not good when they were working in the office. The only difference was with team building, that the supervisor was better at team building when they were in the office versus when they were working remotely. So what does that reveal? If you train on how to do those things effectively remotely, you also get the additional benefit that they apply also when the people are working in the office.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. When an office can mask deeper issues with company culture, and then when a team goes remote, those issues can be revealed, but they were already there.
There's a lot of teams are struggling and they're thinking, well, it's because we're working remotely. In reality, it's because the managers don't have the basic skill set that they would need when the teams are in the office as well.
So how does training these leaders differ from training any other leader? Like, where do you focus your energy?
So the first thing is to have them unlearn previous habits. That's really important. And so there is a lot of studies shows that basically in a hybrid modality, when people are working remotely, you'll get higher retention, you get higher morale, your productivity, if you set it up right, can be higher as well. And then I talk about, okay, so if we have all of these benefits, well, the research shows this, there's clear data, then why are we having such difficulties with lots of managers like Amazon and elsewhere asking their employees to go back to the office? And when we look at the data, it's really about manager comfort. What managers feel in their gut is the right way to manage. So it's the cognitive biases like the status quo bias that's a big problem. Another cognitive bias that's a big problem is called functional fixedness. That's kind of like the hammer-nail syndrome. When you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So when you don't train managers on how to work in a hybrid or remote setting, then what you see is that managers try to apply the same techniques that they used in the office for remote work, for hybrid work. Management by walking around, checking in with people, micromanaging, and then it doesn't work very well. So the managers feel a lot of frustration. The combination of the status quo bias and functional fixedness, that is what I see as the two big fundamental problems, cognitive biases, that cause managers to make really bad decisions around the future of work.
What are the actions that you encourage managers to take to ensure that any status quo bias or functional fixedness bias in their team is observed and eradicated? What should they change?
I provide them with the techniques that they need to use. So for example, the biggest concern of managers I tend to see is how do you manage performance in remote settings, in hybrid settings? What I strongly recommend they do is do frequent small-scale performance evaluations. Once a week or once every 2 weeks, have a meeting with each of the people who reports to you, your direct reports, on their tasks. You look at your team's broader KPIs or OKRs, tie that to the work of each individual team member, and agree on 3 to 5 goals for the next week or 2-week period. So that helps you as a manager make sure that everyone is delivering. And that helps you as a team member know where you stand and be comfortable with your work and have a good relationship with your manager.
It's a comprehensive answer, and it's not just about measuring people's output. Your system really bakes in the need to set the direction, communicate the vision, clarify priorities, and then course correct frequently when things are not on track to reach the point where the manager wants. For a manager who is operating in a remote or hybrid company and perhaps is not the one making all the decisions, but wants to be part of the solution, where should they start?
The crucial thing to think about is having an approach of treating your team members like adults and working with them to create a team-level agreement on how you will work together most effectively. You need to see what will work, and you make sure there's buy-in from them on whatever policies that you're pursuing. And think about all the strategies that I've discussed. Think about performance evaluation. You don't need to get approval from HR to do that. You have your once annual formal performance evaluation, you'll still do that. But this weekly or bi-weekly check-in on performance is still going to get you the outcomes that you want. The virtual co-working, absolutely, you can do that. There's generative AI innovation, absolutely you can do that. And my book, Returning to the Office and Leading Hybrid and Remote Teams, will have a lot more techniques for you to learn from and apply.
Beautiful. I was about to ask you as a final takeaway if people remember one thing that you say today. what should it be, but I think you've just perfectly wrapped that up there.
I think the crucial thing is treating people like adults and making sure that you are adapting to the future of work, not just trying to go back to 2019, because that will not help you.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Gleb Tsipursky, for coming and joining us on Out of Office today. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate you inviting me. It's been great.
And that's a wrap on Out of Office for 2024. I will see you again with bigger and better things next year. In the meantime, I'm Andrew Ellen, and the future of work is Out of Office.